Hello, this is Carib Carter, and I want to welcome you to Mike Cobb's Offshore Investment Report. Great show today because we're going to do something a little different. Somebody of you asked about it. You know, Mike Cobb is the offshore oracle. He is the offshore investment king. All right. And some of you have said, well, where did he start out? How did it all come about? You know, did he start off like Ted Turner and inherited $10 million and parlayed it? Did a good job. Same with Donald Trump. Did a good. Well, let's talk to Mike and see where he started, because I think you're going to be very inspired. Mike Cobb, welcome to Mike Cobb's Offshore Investment Report.
Hey, Carter, good to be with you, man. By the way, I did start off. Ted Turner, when I was born, put $10 million in a trust fund for me. When I was 21, I took it all to Vegas. I bet it all on black, and it came up red. So anyway, I kind of started at zero.
So you started out with nothing, despite Ted's help. Oh, there we go. Ted Turner, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I, folks really do. Years ago, 40 years ago, I wrote a script for the American College of Radiologists, and I wrote a line in there: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I've seen it quoted a million times since. I wrote it over 40 years ago. Yep. But part of the way they know how much you care is the depth of your character. And I know, folks, I've known this gentleman 25 years, and I don't know anybody who has more depth of character. This guy right here, I'm going to say it's going to embarrass him right now, but he puts the lie to what Leo the Lip DeRocher said back when I was a kid. Leo the Lip was a baseball manager, and he was famous for he was a nasty guy. He was famous for saying nice guys finish last. Folks, this guy you're looking at right now is proof positive the opposite is true. Mike, tell us something about, where did you start out? Right now, you are the offshore entrepreneur, residential resorts all over Central America. You didn't start out with somebody handing you 3.5 miles of beachfront in Nicaragua, right?
Nope. Carter. Yeah. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, went to college up in the very northwest corner. Right after college, it was 1986. The recession in the steel industry had hit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Buffalo hard. There were no jobs up there. So I moved to the DC area, got into the computer business, got really lucky, got in on the PC side of things, was in the computer business for about 13 years there in Northern Virginia. And, did really, really well, but it was hard work. It was 12, 14, 16-hour days. I mean, just hustling, right? Just hustling. And it's really there where I learned how to, serve a consumer need, to pay attention to what the consumer is looking for and then serve that need. And the other thing about the computer business, which I didn't realize till much later when we had our own business, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit today, is, the idea of how do you work on really thin margins and how do you actually run a business? And the computer business was brutal. When I got into it at the beginning, margins were, 10, 12, 15% sometimes. By the time I exited the computer business, PC business in 1998, right? So the mid to late 90s, margins were 3, 4, 5%. And so when you're running a business on 3, 4, 5%, like there is no margin for error, right? You are clicking it, right? But the thing was, that there were lessons that were learned early on, and that is when you say you're going to do something, you do it. And even if you lose money to do it, you still do it, because your word is your bond. And I can't remember, just recently, where was I? Gosh, I might think of the example later. I'll come back to it. Just the other day, I actually did a deal on a handshake, right? And it was a big deal. Like, it's a couple $100,000. Maybe it was a home or something. I don't know. I was at a conference and met somebody, and like we shook hands on a deal. And I thought to myself, man, this is just so nice. And I said, but look, we need to get it papered up because I get hit by a bus this afternoon. You want it papered up. But like, we did the deal on a handshake and we were both comfortable with it. And I thought, I mean, this is how it was always, and this is how it really should be. And your word is your bond. And and now we've been in the out of the computer business. I've been doing this since 1996. First couple of years were kind of part time, just sort of feeling it out, but full time since '98. And when you build a reputation that's 26 years old, right? You do it one tiny little brick at a time. It's like building a big house out of bricks. It's lots of tiny little bricks to build this house. But it only takes one or two little bonks with the wrecking ball to knock it down. So that reputation is really, really important and sacrosanct. So yeah, I don't know. Did that answer your question, Carter?
It really does answer the question. And you really, right at the very beginning, you pointed out something that I think people can identify with. You started out as an average American kid. Your parents, I've seen pictures of your parents are the nicest people on the face of the earth, really mid-level Americans, right?
Yeah.
They didn't say to you, Mike, we're going to give you everything you want so you can go out and make it in life. I'm sure they gave you all the love in the world you wanted.
Yes.
But,
yes.
You strike me as a guy who delivered papers, worked at the local whatever.
Burger King.
Burger King. There we go.
Yeah. Hey,
yeah.
But, I've had a work-study program in college. I mean, I was working every semester in college, from the cafeteria to buildings and grounds to working in the poli-sci office, right? I mean, one summer, I worked every summer either at Burger King or I worked in assembly line one summer, right? Yeah. I mean, Now,
folks, this is I want to reiterate why this is important, because this is a gentleman you can identify with, okay? This is not one of the 1% wealthy elite who has no idea what your needs are. This is a man who has been where each of us either has been or is. And so when he talks to you about, some of the developments, okay, the Mike Cobb communities, which are the premier communities throughout Central America, when he talks to you about those, he's speaking your language. He's not talking about, well, you can spend several $1 million and come in. No.
Hey, no, Carter, you're right. I hesitate. Like when you say it's the premier communities, I know you say that, and I really appreciate that, right? I sometimes think to myself, I think people sometimes think, oh, they must be expensive. I mean, we have homes that start at $100,000. Cozy homes, as you like to call them, homes at $100,000, and we offer up to 80% financing. So somebody comes along with $20,000-$25,000 and they want to own a home in Central America in the tropics, right? Like we make that happen for folks, man. And we, and for me, because I grew up middle class, right? And those are my roots. I understand what it means to be middle class and to not have, $5 million sitting in my bank account that I can, go drop on a home somewhere, right? I might have saved up 50 grand, right? And maybe I've worked my whole life and I've got a Social Security check of $1,500 a month or something coming in, and whatever. And if you believe that or not, but what I'm saying, that's a whole different story. But let's say it holds true. I mean, it's $1,500 a month, right? And you got 50 grand saved up, right? Well, you can put a nice down payment on a home. You can get some financing, and you can live really, really well overseas on $1,500. And that is what is incredibly meaningful and significant to me, because I think for many people that's what they've always wanted. They've always dreamed of a home someplace warm. I mean, they're living up in Pittsburgh area where I grew up, or Cleveland, or Minnesota, or something, right? Or all of Canada. That's it.
Or York, Pennsylvania, where I am right now.
Or York, Pennsylvania, right?
And
so all of a sudden, they've got that 50 grand or whatever saved up, and they get $1,500 a month or $1,800 bucks a month. Like, how do you get a really quality life? Well, like, you're not moving to Florida on that. You're not moving to California or Texas, right? So all of a sudden, overseas opens up a whole new opportunity to have this incredible quality of life that's affordable on the budget you have. And you know what? I sleep really, really well at night knowing that we've helped hundreds of people to achieve this. And it feels really good, Carter. It feels great, actually.
Well, and that's it. And that's the bottom line, folks. We're looking at a situation here. I always say the Offshore Club, we're not a sales organization. We're an opportunity organization. And we talk about a lot of different opportunities for people offshore. But I'd be remiss as president of the club if I didn't talk about Grand Pacifica, which I think is I'll say it again, the premier residential resort community in the Caribbean, in the Caribbean, in Nicaragua, folks.
In the tropics,
Grand Belize, because it's all about opportunity. And I love what you said, and I want to reiterate it. Folks, if you have a Social Security income, I know, because I know the demographics of our 100,000 Offshore Club members, a lot of them do have a Social Security income, 1,500 to 2,500 a month. You can live like a king or queen on that. One thing, when you buy the cozy home for 100,000, you're not paying an arm and a leg every year for property tax.
That's
Folks,
true.
that's real world stuff. That's real world stuff. Plus, you know, Mike, I'll insert this, okay? I got my heating bill last week. My heating bill was $100 more than 1 year ago. So,
oh, wow.
And I wrote, well, of course, when you have a president who cancels all makes you energy dependent again, your prices are going to go. But here's the point. I wrote the letter to people saying, folks, keep in mind, in Grand Pacifica, Grand Belize, where I have my home at the La Ceiba Beach Club, but you don't have a heating bill.
Nope.
So they can't raise it $100. So I know one of the things, and we're getting to know you personally now. We're getting to know how you feel and why you've done what you did. One question I have to ask you, because we do every Friday is the Offshore Investment Report with Mike Cobb. Every Thursday is the Global Wealth Fortress Report with your friend and business partner, friend first, business partner, Joel Nagel. And I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. I said, let's talk personal like we're doing right now. And one of the things he brought up, and I said, you went to college with Mike, right? You've been friends ever since college. And Joel's another great guy. And he said, look, we just didn't go to college. We had a radio show together. Mike and Joel were Joel. What the heck was that about?
We had a great radio program. I think the call sign was WARC, I think. Anyway, I think that's right. Anyway, so we had a radio program. It went from, I think, 10 to midnight, and we had to be off the air at midnight. And so what we would do, we could play the last song, right? Like if you started a song, it could continue. So at 11:59, we would, every time, it was once a week, we would start Iron Butterflies Inagata Davida and let it roll for 17 minutes.
Inagata Davida, baby.
So we had some fun with that radio. Yeah, a lot of fun with the radio show. Yeah.
And so you and him finished college, got together. Now you went off to DC and started a computer company very successfully. I think you sold the company and then started saying, let's look offshore, where not only were you a pioneer. I want to point something out. Folks, you need to understand what Mike did. He went offshore and started buying properties before other people were doing it. It's kind of like this. Let me show you a picture. Okay. Mike you know what that is, Mike? That's Gower's Gulch. At Gower's Gulch.
What is it?
At Gower's Gulch.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's Sunset Boulevard, folks, in Gower Street in Hollywood in the 50s. Okay. Here it is today.
Yeah.
Why am I saying this? Why am I pointing this out? Look, here's Key West in the 50s. And folks, this is all going to come together. There's Key West in the 50s. Here's Key West today. Mike, you went in the equivalent of the 50s in Nicaragua, Belize, other countries, and
Costa Rica, Panama. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. And you had the vision. You had the vision as to what the future is. And folks, keep in mind, you might be saying, some of the folks, Mike might be saying, well, I can't wait 70 years. You don't have to. Communication and transportation today have truncated time. Okay, so a lot quicker development. Where'd you get the vision?
Well, by the way, path of progress has accelerated, right?
Well, so that's
what from 1950 to 2000, whatever, those 50 years, what took 50 years in Key West or Sunset Boulevard or wherever, right? I mean, that's because of the pace of change. That's happening in 10, 15, 20 years now. I mean, the acceleration of change is upon us. So, right. So yeah, you're not waiting 50 years. I mean, we bought our first properties in Belize back in 1996 and started our company in 1996. And these were just some condos we bought to, vacation and rent out, kind of Airbnb, long before Airbnb. Right. So, but I mean, we've watched that little island, a little town on the island of Ambergris Caye, San Pedro, go from maximum 2-story, nothing. Now there's, 5-story buildings. There's a Hilton, there's a Marriott. We actually are developing a Marriott hotel. We have a Best Western franchise that's under, it's there already. So, I mean, like, these are the things that's happening, and that's happened in 25 years. And like you said, it probably took 50 or more in Key West for it to happen. But, that accelerating timeline of change is really upon us.
Yeah. And that's the bottom line. Well, how did you have the vision back then when look, let me just say it. Nobody was investing in Nicaragua when you bought that 3.5 miles of beachfront property and began Grand Pacifica. Now, what year was that?
We bought the property in 2000.
In 2000. All right.
Yeah. Right.
Now people are starting to wake up and realize Nicaragua is incredible. Back then, nobody. Same with Belize. But why did you and Joel? Why did you have the vision? Why'd you have the vision?
Well, I don't know. I always look, even when I was in the computer business, my job was to, I like to say, predict the future or see over the hill or around the bend. Right. And, it's sort of like the old Westerns when the cowboys or the Indians were out there and they were, kind of scouting and they could see the dust over the hill. Right. They couldn't see the army coming at them, but they could see the dust, right? Or even Sun Tzu talks about that, right? In the Art of War, right? So you need to be able to see over the hill. That's stupid. Nobody can see over the hill, but if you could see the dust coming up, there's something going on over the hill, right? And so my job in the computer industry was to always see over the hill or around the bend or predict the future. And so I think that's always been a gifting of mine. I mean, back in the 70s, I was in middle school and high school. I was an absolute loser, nerd, geek, guy. I was reading books like Megatrends and Future Shock by Alvin Toffler and Nesbitt, right? I mean,
right.
So, but I'm reading books in the 70s about this word called post-industrial society. Well, it took another 50 years from 70 till 2022. I think I can't remember who coined the word, but Toffler and Nesbitt were talking about post-industrial society in the 70s. But it wasn't until 2021 when all of a sudden people were allowed to be freed from the location of work. You and I have talked about this some, right? But all of a sudden, for the first time in human history, work and the location of work for many people has been decoupled. I mean, this is as transformative as the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution.
Yes.
We are now actually seeing the real post-industrial revolution culturally, right? Technologically, it started to happen in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, right? But culturally, we were still 1908 with Frederick Winslow Taylor helping out Henry Ford with his Model T plant with efficient industrial engineering, right? Like people got in their car and they drove to their office and sat in traffic in DC for 90 minutes or 2 hours or LA for 4 hours each way so they could type on their computer, which they could have done from anywhere, right? They did that for 30 years, right? Culturally, the post-industrial revolution began in 2020 or 2021 with the lockdowns. That's when it broke. And Carter, being able to see over the hill, see the dust of that army marching towards us, called post-industrial society, and then building communities that could serve a post-industrial society consumer. We were ahead of the game, man. Our business went from about $3.5 million in 2019 to just under 25 last year, 24 point something. So we went from 4 million to 24 million. That's a 6x change in 2 years because we saw the dust over the hill and we were ready for a post-industrial consumer. So I don't know where that comes from, Carter, but even going back to middle school days, reading Toffler and Nesbitt and all that kind of stuff, I've always been fascinated with the future. I actually belonged to the Futurist Society for many years. And that was a very interesting bunch, and I don't anymore. But the future has always intrigued me, Carter.
Well,
I don't know.
And that is what I'm glad you spelled that out for us, because folks, that's vitally important to you. We're almost out of time here, but what you've seen here, number one, he's one of us, okay, which to me is absolutely essential, to have people you can trust, that you know the depth of the character. That's Mike Cobb. And somebody who's visionary, then, who foresaw what I call the remote revolution, okay, and foresaw it, has taken advantage of it. And Mike, what you've done, you have put, you have, what you have developed has put everyone watching right now in a position to come in and take advantage of it as well, because you've got everything laid out for them. Folks, you can make your move, you can work remote, recreation, everything remote now, and be, instead of in York, Pennsylvania, like I am, where there's snow on the ground, down there where Mike is, we're in the palm trees and the gorgeous weather. Fantastic, Mike. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's excellent. So thank you very much for doing this. Thank you for giving these insights into your character and your intellect as well, because folks, this is what you want to invest in. I'm just going to say it flat out. This is what you want to invest in. So thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. Right there. Fortunately, we were right there at the end when Mike froze up on us. But folks, dynamite. That, you know, I always say people follow people. This is one of the people that you want to follow. You've seen where he's come from. You see where he is now. You can see how he can help you to be where you want to be. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you again next week. Let's do this thing.